Hello, YouTube fans. This is TheSkullKlown. If you're new here, don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. My main goal here is to get 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So if you guys could do that, that'd be awesome. And I'm up to 180 subscribers. So thank you guys. That's awesome. I want to talk about Final Fantasy IX, as you could tell from the title. I will do my review of Child's Play 2. On tomorrow, like I said, on Friday, which I put on my Facebook page. So if you haven't add me on Facebook, well, if you haven't liked my Facebook page, go right ahead. So anyways, it's in my front page, so you can find it. I don't have to put it in the description box. Anyways, let's talk about Final Fantasy IX. Should Square Enix remake it? There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of talk for that, just for one Final Fantasy to be remade. But people don't get that, I mean, I don't even get that you don't remake Final Fantasy VI. You don't remake Final Fantasy IX, which you could have done in PlayStation 3. I swear you could have freaking did that. You didn't do it. I couldn't believe. Whatever. Just whatever. I wasn't hyped for. I mean, yes, I was hyped for Final Fantasy VII remake, which would never happen. But I also wanted Final Fantasy IX mostly, to be honest. But anyways, mainly because back then I never played Final Fantasy IX, and I actually wanted a remake of it because it just looked cool. I'm like, I want a remake of that game. Could we get something, new, something back when you guys started, basically, Anyways, but yeah, there's a lot of questions when it comes to this of remaking video games, especially for Square Enix and Final Fantasy IX. And, well, any Final Fantasy for that matter. Be remade Final Fantasy 4 for how many times? For fucking crying out loud. There's even the after years. And Jesus Christ, that's sequel. That's a sequel. And the thing is, Final Fantasy 4 actually has a series that's actually not bad. The sequels are not bad. So they're actually really fun and really enjoyable. But they remake Final Fantasy more. Final Fantasy 4 more, but they don't remake the other Final Fantasies. Again, Final Fantasy 1. I'm surprised that game hasn't been remade countless of times, to be honest, because it's the first game that you got introduced. That's going to be on the meme, probably. Introduce. That's funny. Someone's going to put that in the comments, say, introduce. Anyways, you would think they would remake Final Fantasy 1 more because it's what introduced, a lot of people to RPGs mostly. Dragon Warriors, again, Dragon Quest, was already out and all that. Plus, you had other RPGs before that. But Final Fantasy really, blew everyone's mind because of what it looked like. It wasn't, just a fucking screen that showed your enemy. It was, you actually saw your fucking characters. You saw your magic. You saw your weapons. It was something fresh and new. And that's why Final Fantasy 1 always would stick out to me as one of the best looking. And I like the NES version a lot, to be honest. Yes, it's hard, but to tell you the truth, I really don't care. I'm a level grind fanatic, to be honest. It's like going to Vegas. I'm going to get addicted. So even if the main characters are good, that's probably going to make me beat the game even more. Anyways, Final Fantasy IX should be remade. But the thing is, Square won't. There's so many Final Fantasies that should be remade. Again, like I said, Final Fantasy 1 should be remade. Before I get more into that, Final Fantasy 1, if they ever remake it again for some forsaken reason, maybe an anniversary of Final Fantasy, I don't know, it's almost, 30-something, probably more than that, years of Final Fantasy. I don't know, I could be fucking wrong, because I don't look up shit. But anyways, if they ever remake Final Fantasy 1, they should have the ATB bar for Final Fantasy 1. And to me, it will look like it will be more awesome than it already is. Because some people don't like Final Fantasy 1 is okay of a game. It's not the greatest game ever, but it did what it had to do, and it saved the company, and there you go. The rest is history, basically. So there will never be a Final Fantasy, just, never. Even people want to, and sometimes I think it should end, but other times I'm glad it doesn't, because there's more new characters to introduce, there it is again, introduce, and all that crap. But, with this game, if Square cannot remake Final Fantasy VII, what makes you think basically they will remake Final Fantasy IX? You probably hear it playing. But, yeah. If they don't even want to remake Final Fantasy 7, what makes you think they will remake 9? Because it's just like, you saw what they did, right? What the trailer, like the PS4 Final Fantasy 7, it's like, they're doing it? Oh, cool. Literally, I was like, they are gonna do it. I pressed on the video, and shit you not, I was dying of laughter. I was dying of laughter. I was pissed a little, but not so pissed as the crowd. Oh my fucking god. I'm surprised they didn't riot just because of that. Yes, a lot of people would be like, oh, they riot because of a game. Well, actually, you riot because you kind of trolled us and lied to our faces, you asshole, basically. But shit, it is like, fuck me, that trailer has so many dislikes. Final Fantasy, 7 4 trailer, all they're going to do is just recode it. The pictures are going more detail and all that. That's all they're going to do. People are pissed. People are furious. Square Enix has shot themselves in the foot. You trolled the people again with Final Fantasy VII again, and yet you laugh about it, or you try to it's like the guy was like Final Fantasy VII, and then he was trying to get excited, but some people were like, hey, other people was like, fuck this company, basically. Now I don't think a lot of people are gonna fucking buy shit from Square Enix. Well, I doubt it, because if it has a Square Enix name or the Final Fantasy, forget it. Never mind. Square Enix would be fine. The Final Fantasy name is too big. It's that popular now that if someone buys the name Final Fantasy and makes it their own, or maybe never makes it again, they will know what it is anyways, because of the history of Final Fantasy, the history of video games. They will look back on RPGs and people will be like, Final Fantasy, what's that? And then they're going to find out this whole series, and then eventually if it stopped, they're going to find out why it stopped. They find out, and then they'd be like, fuck, I wish it kept going. Kind of makes sense, to be honest. But it's like a reversal there, but whatever. But I know the PSN version for Final Fantasy IX is more detailed, like Final Fantasy 8 is and 7 is on the PSN version for the PlayStation 3. It's more detailed, more nice, more beautiful, more polished. But the thing is, I know Square will probably never remake like those big gigantic game, like those. There's a difference. Remaking a 2D game is way different than remaking a 3D game, and it has been proven with Final Fantasy IV. I think that's why they keep remaking it. Like, the only 3D Final Fantasy IV we actually got was the DS games. That's how high they went. And to be honest, those graphics look like you can, those are easy. I'm not saying they're easy. I'm saying that, it's probably nothing for them, basically, those little graphics, to be honest. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not a game designer. That's why I want to be a video game designer. I want to know how tough it is. I want to know the basics of it, and that's why I'm always studying shit about video game design. I want to become a video game designer. And Square, damn. But anyways, it's very weird how this company does things. And now with Final Fantasy VII, basically they shot themselves in the foot. Now they have to remake it. They have to. And the thing is, they have to do it from the ground up. They need to do it like Final Fantasy 15. Just like if they want to do a 3D of, if they want to do a big 3D game of mostly all the 2D Final Fantasies and the PlayStation ones, that is a lot of money that they will spend. And I'm not saying that, oh, they will probably do that. That'd be cool if we do get like a 3D, like nowadays first Final Fantasy game. It would be nice. Like, say if it's anniversary, make a PlayStation 3 version. I mean, well, now with PlayStation 4, make a PlayStation 4 version. Just as an example, I'm not saying they would do it, but it'd be cool if they, like, anniversary of Final Fantasy 4, or any Final Fantasy, and they just have it, the 2D versions and then the PS1 versions. Those, all the way up until 9, how about that? Remake them from, basically, if they remade all the games from 1 through 9, it would take forever. I mean, not in a day. I'm talking about like one by one at a time. I'm not talking about like all in a day, obviously. I'm talking about basically taking the game and remaking it from the ground up again, but this time in a grander scale. Since with the PlayStation 4 you could do so much. And the thing is, Square, I mean, they don't. It's just, they said, I don't know if they didn't say this, but they did said that they didn't have the people that was with them to make Final Fantasy VII to be like making it, So they only have, so people come and gone in the company. So it looks like it. It looks like mostly, obviously, that happens in companies. Some people leave, some people stay, and that's crazy. Imagine Tetsuya Nomura leaves. I hope I didn't butcher his name. Imagine he just walked out of Square Enix, like, for the hell of it, just because he felt he was done, People would be like, because that was like, some people say that Tetsuya Nomura is like one of the hopes for Square to have Final Fantasy be lifted again, But people have complaints with Final Fantasy 15, because it's an action RPG. Now, people that have touched the controller and played it said it's awesome. And the control feels great, and you feel like you're in control. The people that haven't played it are just talking smack because they haven't played the game. And other people probably just want to talk smack. I don't know. But I haven't played the game, but obviously I'm not talking smack. I heard the game is really good, so I do want to get that game. I'll probably might get Type 0 first, but I could get a combo pack that can come with Final Fantasy 15. But I don't think that doesn't last that long anyways. But moving on with Final Fantasy 9, if they remake Final Fantasy 9, it's just, I know I'm not talking about Final Fantasy 9 a lot, but basically this is like a discussion of a lot of the whole Final Fantasy, because if we're talking about just one Final Fantasy subject, like should it get remade, we should talk about more depth and detail about it, in my opinion. But maybe too depth, and we just haven't even touched Final Fantasy 9. But Final Fantasy 9 would look so beautiful in the PlayStation 4 graphics. So beautiful. It has that cartoony look. And you know what? When Final Fantasy 9 came out, that cartoony look, no one didn't even like it. That's why Final Fantasy 9 was a good game. Great game. Beautiful game. Perfect. I think it's better than Final Fantasy 7. Yes, I went there. Are you going to complain with the guy that likes Final Fantasy 9? Or you should complain to the guy that was in Square that loved Final Fantasy 9 because he did the music for all the mostly all the Final Fantasies, and he did the music for 9, and he said it's his personal favorite basically. So that's cool. Final Fantasy 9 will always be my personal favorite. It's just Final Fantasy 9 has that magic. It has that magic that you wish you want more in a game nowadays. You know, because I've never experienced a game like Final Fantasy 9. I played other Final Fantasies, but when I played Final Fantasy 9 throughout, I was like, awesome. This is what a Final Fantasy game should be, and you know, just. You look at Final Fantasy 9, and then you look at 10, you'd be like, why was this successful? It was still a good game, but it had some goofy moments that no one doesn't talk about. Okay, no, that's not true. They do talk about it, but people make fun of it, basically. They don't be like, what is this stupid shit here? But then, at the same time, you look at Final Fantasy 9 when it was out and release. It was at a time at the PlayStation 1's lifespan, and the PlayStation 2 was getting hyped as hell. No one didn't pay attention to PlayStation 1 games anymore. People were focused on PS2. People were pre-ordering that shit. And you know what else game they were hyped for? Final Fantasy X. That's why it didn't sold probably that well. It's still over time it became a huge thing, but there and then it didn't make a lot of money. In Square's eyes, I don't know if they think that. In Square's eyes, they probably say that people don't want this. People want futuristic, and that's sad. That is sad. And with Final Fantasy IX, how it is like futuristic mixed with, you know, the old classic Final Fantasy, it's like, yes, like Final Fantasy VI is basically. Fuck, you know? Perfect. Go back to that. Don't just stick into one little thing. You're called Final Fantasy. Move, branch out, you know? And the thing is, with Final Fantasy VII and 8 is more like a, you know, time paradox thing. Kind of like going back to Final Fantasy 1. It's kind of like that, but it's different from 7. 7 is more of a sci-fi video game than anything. It's an alien, obviously. Basically the boss is an alien. So, I mean, Sephiroth, hello. I mean, are we really going to say Sephiroth is not an alien? Are we really going to say that? Play Final Fantasy VII again. Jenova is not human, and they said that. Fuck. Hello. But whatever. I think he's alien. Take it what it is. People take whatever for what it is. So if you don't think Sephiroth is alien, that's fine. You probably think something else. And you might think I'm stupid for thinking he's an alien. Okay, sorry. His mother is an alien. So am I gonna, well, damn, you know what? I should just keep shut right now. Because at the same time, I'm not even done with Final Fantasy VII. So at the same time, why should I even talk? Okay. I'm still playing it, though. Anyways, moving on. Final Fantasy IX, just the voice actors. Most people might not want the voice actors. I mean, people will want the voice actors, yes. Because I would like to hear, you know, Cornelian's voice, Vivi's voice, Steiner's voice, Dagger's voice, Kuja's voice. We all heard Kuja and Zidane's voice from Dissidia, obviously. By the way, I am going to make a video of that, too. So, about Dissidia. Eventually. Anyways, Final Fantasy IX has some great characters. The villain, I don't like the villain all that much, to be honest. Kuja. I don't like Kuja all that much. He's alright. I To me, Kuja is more like, I thought he was just like a like one of those villains that you meet along the way and you have to fight him a couple of times. You know, the boss's servant, basically. You know, but it's not like that. But at the end, you do fight Necron, aka Soulgate, if you fought him in the life tree. I hope I'm saying that right. I keep thinking I'm never saying it right. So on the life tree. So I think that's so cool because some people might not think this, but when I fought Soulgate and then I beat the game of Final Fantasy IX and it became Necron, and it made sense that he is Soulgate. It makes sense that Necron is Soulgate because obviously when at the end of the game you literally go inside a portal where the life tree is at, where you literally go to the life tree and destroy Soulgate, and then like I said, at the end of the game there's a portal on top of the tree, you go through it and then it's like a whole nother dimension, and then Soulgate is like the final boss. So well, Necron's the final boss, but the thing is, I looked at that and I was like, that's cool. Life became death, and then Kuja is like, people say, oh, it's maybe Kuja's fear. So I thought that that's also connected too. Kuja is afraid of death, and for that he's acting all big and tough, and he thinks he is death. Since he's afraid of death, he decides to cause death all around so he can become death, but he's scared of death. So when he's defeated, he wants to kill everyone else because he is scared of death. That's why he wants to kill the whole party, literally, when he's like, I'm not going to die alone, because he's scared of death. And again, you write Necron in the internet, it is death, basically. I wrote, like, how many times I searched that up? A million times to, like, prove to people, but, whatever. Well, it's like a sort of type of death thing. But Soulgate is Necron. Kuja's afraid of it. I literally made the transition like that. To be honest, I literally connected the pieces, and I thought of it as this. So I'm like, maybe this and that, so maybe this happened, and maybe this happened. You know, again, this is all just speculations about Soulgate and Necron. I could talk about Necron and Soulgate forever, to be honest. It's like a discussion and debatable of Final Fantasy IX fans that really, really are like aggravating a little bit. It's like he comes out of nowhere, but there's an explanation why a little bit. So that's why a lot of people got off guard a little bit. It's like this boss out of nowhere comes, but kind of get briefs of it. But anyways, that's my kind of assumption of Necron and Soulgate, basically Soulgate and Necron with Kuja added to it. So what you guys thought about that? That's I think when I told people that, and when I told my friend that too, my friend was just like, huh, you know? I'm like, right? That actually kind of makes sense. Life becomes death. And then Kuja's afraid of death, so he tries kind of like being death because he's afraid of it. So he destroys all these people, and he wants to cause a war, basically. And then again, at the end of the freaking game, he wants to kill the whole party because he doesn't want to die all by himself. And he's actually not a bad guy at the end of the game. Spoiler. Kuja is not actually a bad guy. He's just scared, I like to say. I want to say Kuja is kind of scared through the whole game. I felt like he was scared, to be honest. Every time I read his dialogue and all that, I felt like he was scared. I don't know, that's how I felt like he was as a character, you know. To me, I had a connection with Zidane and all the characters. I felt like Viva was kind of shy, bashful, not that, you know, he doesn't know really what to do, and basically, and he's like, you know, he's a shy kid. Zidane is a hyper kid. You know, he's a ladies' man and all that. Of course, you get that from the dialogue, obviously. You get them by what they do. You don't have to read the dialogue and you can see what they do, and you know by looking at it, I'm like, oh, you know, this is what this character is, and what I see basically. Dagger is just a girl that wants to be her own person, and she grows up as this amazing person, and she becomes, and when her mother is gone to the throne, she basically steps on it, you know? I mean, not, she becomes the queen, you know? She doesn't run away, she literally fights, you know? She's like, alright then, I'm next. You know, it might be scary, but, you know, at least I have people that will help me. Look at that. That's awesome. Steino. Steino wanted to protect Dagger at all costs, no matter what. And he was a true knight. Literally a true knight. Like, he was down to a T. He's like, basically, Scout's honor, basically. You know, Scout's honor base. It's like that, you know? It's like nothing. Steino's like that. Steino's awesome. You know, they should put him in the city, by the way, but that's just me. With Vivi, yes, with Vivi, okay? You can't have Steino without Master Vivi. Just saying. Just saying. Come on. But I'm sorry, guys. I talked about a lot of Final Fantasy, different Final Fantasies, and not more Final Fantasy 9. But if Final Fantasy 9 does get remade, it will look beautiful. Duh. The people, maybe if they do change the maybe if they do get the actors, if they ever do remake Final Fantasy 9 and they get the actors, make the people have a choice to turn off the voice acting and keep the dialogue, you know? Kind of like what they did in Final Fantasy 4, the DS version, you know? They did a lot of good things with that. You can have the 8-bit soundtrack, you know? That's fucking awesome. To listen to the HD version and the 8-bit version, I'm going to listen to the original version, thank you very much. You know, that's awesome. Those are the decisions that you should put in a remake video game or remastered. Why? Because it's what everything... It makes sense, to be honest. That's what I think. But, yeah, I think that's really it to talk about Final Fantasy IX. I have talked about way more stuff about Final Fantasy except for Final Fantasy IX, but I just kept going and going. I apologize, guys, but this is something I've been dying to talk about, and I've been going through details and details and details, because it's not just Final Fantasy IX that needs to get remade. It's other ones, and we have to talk about them. We have to talk... We can't just not talk about them. Square Enix shot themselves in the foot. And what they're going to do about Final Fantasy VII, we don't even know. They don't know what to do anymore. There's a mobile game with Final Fantasy VII. It's basically Cloud on his bike killing soldiers, I think, or monsters. Monsters. I'm going to say monsters. But that's it. People were excited, like, oh, Final Fantasy VII on the phone? Huh. And then everyone was like, come on, Square. Your biggest franchise of a game is not getting remade. But it probably never will. What could we do? This is the TheSkullKlown signing off. Have a nice day. Join me on Facebook as Ryan Velasquez, and on Twitter is at TheSkullKlown. And on Instagram is ever TheSkullKlown Velasquez. And on SoundCloud is ever TheSkullKlown Velasquez. So, that's it. Can't find it. Basically, you find it, obviously. It's on my front of my page, like I said in the beginning of the video. So, with Facebook and all that. So, see you guys later, and thanks for listening. And tell me your guys' thoughts and opinions. And I know this video is way too long. So, if you guys went up to this point, thank you. See you guys later.